The financial secretary says the government will have to control public spending and cut expenses in the next fiscal year. The time-varying toll system at Three Cross Harbor tunnels enters its second phase. And growing pressure on the Israeli government to reopen talks with Hamas on the release of hostages. Good evening, and thank you for joining us. The public consultation on Budget 2024-25 begins today. Because of growing pressure on the government coffers, Financial Secretary Paul Chan said the administration will have to control public spending and trim expenses. This as the city expects a budget deficit of some $100 billion in this financial year.
To create a brighter future for Hong Kong, how should we allocate resources?
The 2024-25 budget will be unveiled on February 28th next year. On his blog, Financial Secretary Paul Chan wrote that Hong Kong's economy is picking up, but the strength of recovery has been weaker than expected, owing to high interest rates and tense geopolitical situations around the world. He said the external environment next year will remain complex and full of uncertainties. Chan noted there could be a budget shortfall of just over $100 billion in the current fiscal year. That nearly doubles the estimate at the start of this year, and it's possible the budget will stay in the red for 2024-25. The finance chief added government expenditure has grown exponentially from $470 billion in fiscal year 2017-18 to $660 billion in 2022-23. The 40% hike is much bigger than the rise in government income. The city's fiscal reserves also down $268 billion. With that, Chan said it's inevitable the government needs to effectively control spending and cut costs. Apart from maintaining zero growth in the civil service establishment, various government departments will have to cut a total of 2% in recurrent expenses as well over the coming 2 financial years. The finance chief said the administration will carefully consider the social and economic needs, especially for the underprivileged, and they will explore new areas for economic growth, including collaboration with the Middle East and ASEAN countries to buoy government income.
Achieve sustainable development and grow the pie for Hong Kong. The consultation for the 2024-25 budget has started. Share your views at budget.gov.hk.
Economics professor Billy Mack from the Baptist University said it's hard for the government to impose higher taxes to boost income, given the current economic environment. But budget cuts are also less likely on most social, medical, and education expenditures.
It's very difficult to cut down the spending for this 3 part, right? And then for the remaining, actually, the government have some kind of flexibility to make it more efficient. For example, the traveling subsidies.
Other possible cuts in benefits include cash handouts, raised concession, and rent assistance for public housing tenants. The Hong Kong Monetary Authority's chief executive Eddie Yu said he's cautiously optimistic towards the city's economic performances next year. That's after considering factors including the better-than-expected ease in inflation data in the U.S. Last week, the Federal Reserve also kept interest rates steady. Yu said that also signaled a possible end to rate hikes. He also expects an improved economy on the mainland, citing better economic data in October and November. The second phase of the time-varying toll system at the Three Cross Harbor tunnels began today. The flow of traffic remains relatively smooth at the 3 tunnels, but some motorists say the toll instructions displayed at tunnel entrances are not clear enough. Timothy Lee reports.
Under the second phase of the toll scheme starting today, motorists using the Three Cross Harbor tunnels are notified of the tolls via display screens set up at the tunnel entrances. The implementation of the off-peak time slot toll of the latest phase began at 5 a.m., with private cars being charged $20 per trip on Sundays and public holidays. At 10:10 a.m., there will be a 3-step toll increase for private cars within 5 minutes to $25. Meanwhile, public holiday tolls at the Western Harbor crossing cost the least compared with the other 2 tunnels. Many motorists indicated they plan to use the former more often, but noted toll displays at the Western Harbor crossing are not clear enough. This man said it was hard for him to see the notification screen, adding it would be more convenient for drivers if the display screen is placed on the right of the tunnel entrance. Under the new measure, tolls from Monday to Saturday for private cars at the Western Harbor Crossing cost between $20 and $60. And for the Cross Harbor Tunnel and Eastern Harbor Crossing, between $20 and $40. This as taxis and other vehicles, including goods vehicles and buses, are subject to an all-day fixed toll of $25 and $50 respectively. The HKE Mobility mobile app also offers updates on the time-varying toll scheme. Fares for a number of red minibuses crossing the Cross Harbor Tunnel rose in lockstep with the second phase of the toll system. This minibus traveling between Causeway Bay and Chunwan has increased its fare from $23 to $29. Some minibus passengers, including this woman, noted the fares are too high and will consider taking the MTR as an alternative option in future. This minibus route manager emphasized they could lose up to 40% of their passengers because of the change, adding that minibus drivers have to pay the tunnel toll even if they don't have any passengers. He urged the government to conduct a review of the toll system as soon as possible. Timothy Lee, TVB News.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu appears to have confirmed that new talks have started with Qatar, which has been acting as a mediator to recover hostages still held by Hamas. Netanyahu insisted Israel's war on Hamas must continue until victory is achieved. But the Israeli leader is under increasing pressure after the military admitted on Saturday that 3 Israeli hostages who were shirtless and waving a white flag in Gaza were shot and killed by their own soldiers. Around 240 hostages were taken by Hamas when they raided Israel on October 7th, sparking an Israeli response that has killed more than 19,000 people in Gaza. Nasbi Karim has more.
The battlefield, seemingly a world away from a potential ceasefire meeting in Europe between Israeli intelligence chief David Barnea and Qatar's Prime Minister Mohammed bin Abdul Rahman Al Thani. In Lebanon, Hamas spokesman Osama Hamdan played up the killing, saying, "This Nazi army who announced a war to liberate the hostages, today 3 hostages came to them alive asking to be saved, and they killed them in a field execution." He said no more hostages will be released until Israel stops its bombardment of Gaza and frees around 7,000 Palestinians held in Israeli jails. Netanyahu has rejected those conditions, saying Israel remains committed to eliminating Hamas and making sure the group has no role to play in a post-war Gaza. Families of hostages still in Gaza held rallies in Israel after the deaths of 28-year-old Yotam Haim, 25-year-old Samar al-Talalka, and 26-year-old Alon Shamriz. Israeli media said the 3 hostages emerged from a building close to Israeli soldiers in northern Gaza, shirtless and waving a white flag of surrender. 2 were reportedly killed immediately, and a 3rd ran back into the building, screaming for help in Hebrew. Soldiers followed him and shouted for him to come out. As he appeared from a staircase, at least 1 soldier shot him. The incident also raised questions about the conduct of Israeli soldiers in the battlefield. Israeli families are saying Netanyahu's military strategy to free the hostages is not working and a new deal is needed.
My daughter was there. Every day that passes is a danger to their lives. I was there. My daughter was there. Do not abandon the hostages. We must act now. A deal is required today. Bring them home now!
Nazri Karim, TVB News.
Several major shipping companies say they will avoid using the Suez Canal as Houthi rebels in Yemen stepped up their attacks on commercial vessels in the Red Sea. A U.S. Navy destroyer shot down 14 attack drones in the area on Saturday, while a British warship also destroyed a drone that was said to be targeting merchant shipping. No injuries were reported, but the latest development could have an impact on the global economy. More details from NBC News.
The USS Carney shot down 14 attack drones in the Red Sea launched from areas of Yemen controlled by Houthi rebels. The Houthis say they were targeting Israel. This is just the latest in a series of instances since October 7th of U.S. ships destroying drones and missiles launched by the Iran-backed rebels either directly at Israel or at ships they believe are connected to Israel. The Red Sea, the Gulf of Aden, the Suez Canal all see about 30% of the world's container ships, and now several major shipping companies say their ships will not use that route, which could impact the global economy. The White House saying it's working to strengthen a 39-nation task force to make the Red Sea safer for commercial ships.
Japan and the Association of Southeast Asian Nations have adopted a joint vision that puts emphasis on security. Ties between Japan and ASEAN have mostly been based on assistance for developing economies. With some ASEAN nations grappling with China over territorial disputes, Tokyo sees an opportunity for further collaboration. David Garrett reports.
Fumino Kishida proposes a toast at the Japan-ASEAN summit, calling for a peaceful vision for generations to come. Leaders from 9 of the 10 nations in the bloc touch and raise glasses. They are marking the 50th anniversary of Japan's friendship with ASEAN. Time for renewing acquaintances and planning the future. Over the weekend, Japan's Prime Minister held discussions with his counterparts. Myanmar is the only ASEAN member not represented at leadership level. Kishida sat down with Indonesian President Joko Widodo. Indonesia has the largest GDP in the ASEAN group. Widodo is also the current chair of ASEAN, overseeing initiatives and acting as spokesperson. The pair say they want to focus on deals for young business people. The host was working his way through all the leaders building bridges with ASEAN countries. He also spoke with the Prime Ministers of Malaysia and Singapore. At Kishida's meeting with Anwar Ibrahim, Japan agreed to help Malaysia with maritime equipment and drones. Japan is assisting more and more on security as well as economically. A collaboration was signed with Malaysia for joint space exploration, while with Singapore a framework was created to work together on greener shipping and ports. Tokyo and Beijing have courted ASEAN as both northern powers look to assert themselves in the south. Meetings and talks continued on Sunday as Kishida greeted more regional politicians, including the Prime Minister of Thailand, Srettha Thavisin. Also among his guests, Philippine President Fernando Marcos Jr., Sultan Hassan al-Bolkiah from oil-rich Brunei. Significantly, Vietnamese Prime Minister Pham Minh Chinh, who held talks with President Xi Jinping in Hanoi just days ago. Kishida and ASEAN's rotating chair, Widodo, spoke to delegates and journalists. The Japanese leader said substantive discussions created a joint vision for Japan and ASEAN's future. Widodo, speaking for the organisation, praised Tokyo's partnership over the last 50 years and reaffirmed a further commitment. Talks will continue at the summit for another day as Japan aims to position themselves at the centre of Southeast Asia's future. David Garrett, TVB News.
Still ahead, the return of the Hong Kong Streetathon. The cold weather warning remains in force. And in Paris, the Notre Dame rooster back on the cathedral spire as restoration work enters the final stage. Welcome back. The Hong Kong Streetathon returned to the city for the first time in 3 years. More than 50,000 runners competed in the race today. But the event was also overshadowed by hiccups and injuries. As some full marathon runners mistakenly followed the half marathon routes, the organizer admitted not enough directions were given. Meanwhile, 257 runners were injured in the race. 5 of them were sent to hospital. For the first time, the Tseung Kwan O Lambton Tunnel was designated as the starting point of the 10-kilometer race. While it was around 10 degrees Celsius in the early morning, unfazed by the chill, this participant said it's preferable to run in dry weather.
3, 2, 1!
Runners passed through Tseung Kwan O Cross Bay Bridge and the Tseung Kwan O Lambton Tunnel before reaching their destination at Hoi Bun Road, Kwun Tong. Mr. Chung here said the uphill section at the beginning was already quite challenging, and with his Superman costume, he said it's even harder for him to run in a tunnel which was stuffier. Ms. Lam said it's not easy for her to catch her breath while running amid the strong winds.
My legs felt cold at the beginning, but once you kept going after the first K, it's good, it's good. Just warm up, stretch a bit, just do the normal, yes. I was pleased with the blankets at the end, though.
Today, I must say, it was okay, not too harsh competition. I think it's nice when it's cold for running. Yeah, it's okay.
Yeah!
The half and full marathon, meanwhile, started in the dark at 5 a.m. around the Island Eastern Corridor near East Coast Park. The organizer says some 30 to 50 full marathon runners mistakenly took the half marathon route. Leung Pak Hang, the co-founder and CEO of race organizers Run Our City, said the hiccups might be caused by their lack of manpower. Leung admitted clearer directions and signs could have been given to participants and apologized for the situation. Newly elected district councillors will start work on January 1st next year. Speaking with TVB News, Secretary for Home and Youth Affairs Alice Mack said district councillors must complete tasks assigned by district officers, who will chair the district councils, and that's even if the councillors face objections from the community. Mack said district councillors may notify the government of such objections without affecting their work. The Secretary for Home and Youth Affairs also noted that the December 10th elections succeeded in its goals of electing patriots to serve the city. The 2 Chinese homegrown passenger jets that made their way to Hong Kong earlier this week have returned to Shanghai. The ARJ-21 was the first to depart. The C919 took off from Hong Kong International Airport several minutes later. The 2 planes reached the SAR on Tuesday. Hong Kong welcomed the aircraft with a special water arch ceremony. The C919 airliner performed a flypast over Victoria Harbour yesterday. The cold weather and yellow fire danger warnings are now in force. Large numbers of people could be seen wearing winter jackets and scarves this morning in areas around the Central Ferry Piers. A low temperature of 11.4 degrees Celsius was recorded at Hong Kong Observatory earlier today, the lowest morning temperature since the start of this winter. Most areas in the new territory saw temperatures dropping below 10 degrees. Authorities reminded residents to stay warm and protect themselves against the wind chill effect. And several areas across the mainland reported record low temperatures. Beijing recorded minus 15.5 degrees Celsius this morning. That's the 3rd lowest temperature recorded in the capital city since 1951. Mainland weather authorities said temperatures in 23 cities have hit record lows. A number of areas in the north, including Tianjin and Hebei provinces, broke the record for low temperatures in December. Mainland authorities said the cold wave is nearing its end, but noted conditions will only start to become warmer from Saturday. A new rooster weather vane has been placed on top of the Notre Dame Cathedral in Paris as restoration continues. The golden copper emblem of France was blessed by the Archbishop before being hoisted high above the French capital by cranes. The gleaming rooster was then placed on the top of the world-famous structure. There is a new spire after the old one was destroyed when fire ripped through the roof of Notre Dame in 2019. Some parts of the building that survived the blaze date back to 1163. 500 builders have been working on the rebuild with the aim that Notre Dame should be able to reopen next year. And that's the news. Thank you for watching.